Success does not begin with fireworks, nor does it come from dramatic pushes filled with spectacle. It is built quietly, slowly, silently, and precisely. It is forged through every single day you show up, even when no one is watching, no one is praising, and no one is urging you on. Consistency is not a random trait, but a choice repeated so many times that it no longer feels like a choice. It becomes part of your blood, your breathing rhythm, the way you rise each morning and keep moving forward, whether under stormy skies or the radiant brightness of a sunny day. Consistency does not come from fleeting inspiration, but from a deep awareness that action matters not when you feel like doing it, but when you still do it at times you least want to. Many people begin with great force. They are full of fire and determination in the early days of a new journey. But soon, motivation fades, inspiration burns out, and they let go when things are no longer favorable. Meanwhile, those who endure are not necessarily more talented, but they are the ones who know how to keep going, even when the heart grows weary, the body aches, and the mind is clouded with doubt. It is precisely in those moments, when you do what you least want to do, that you lay the firmest foundation for success. Because what separates those who create results from those who remain on the sidelines is not talent, not luck, but the ability to continue. Consistency is action that rises above emotion. It does not ask whether you are happy, whether you have enough energy, or whether today feels right. It only requires that you show up, once again, and once again, because conscious repetition, carried out even under imperfect conditions, is what generates the invisible force known as inner reliability. When you continually keep promises to yourself, even the smallest ones, you are building something far greater, true self-trust. The mind is skillful at giving reasons. It will tell you today is an exception, that you already did well yesterday, so resting today is fine, that you will start again next week. But consistency does not bargain with the mind. It does not participate in that dialogue. It does not try to persuade you to push a little more. It simply acts, as if there were no other option, as if it were an inevitable part of who you are. There will be mornings when you wake up feeling utterly drained. No interest, no inner light, nothing pulling you out of bed. Yet if you have cultivated consistency, you will still rise, still do what you have committed to. And something remarkable happens. Action pulls emotion along, not the other way around. You do not need to wait for inspiration to act. Act first, and motivation will follow. Those who grasp this principle have already unlocked a fundamental law of lasting success. Consistency is not glamorous. It does not get celebrated. No one applauds you for working on time every day, eating healthily, exercising, reading, or refusing what is easy to do, what is right. Yet these quiet, steady actions, accumulated over time, are what create the immeasurable gap between those who merely hope and those who manifest. Success is not reserved for those who start best, but for those who refuse to quit. And those who refuse to quit are the ones who have grown accustomed to repetition, to the dull feeling of being on time, on commitment, on schedule even when the heart resists. You do not need to be a genius to win, but you must be consistent as if it were non-negotiable. You do not need to be strong at every moment, but you must show up every day in your rightful place. Not because someone expects it, not because of reputation, but because of something deeper. You have decided who you are becoming. Consistency does not only create external results, it creates a new image of yourself within. You are no longer someone trying to do something, but someone who always does it. You no longer just have habits, you have identity. And from that identity, small decisions are no longer choices, but inevitabilities. When you see someone succeed, do not only look at the outcome. Look at the sequence of repeated actions across hundreds of days, unseen, unrewarded, unpraised. Consistency is the ability to maintain momentum even when you are not sure if you are heading in the right direction. Because what matters more than knowing for sure is not stopping. The universe does not reward those who start earliest, but those who persist longest. The real game begins after all inspiration has evaporated. That is when only you, your habits, and your daily choice to continue or to quit remain. And if you have ever found yourself giving up midway, Do not condemn yourself. Simply begin again in a different way, no longer relying on inspiration, but laying the foundation on commitment. Every repeated action is not meaningless repetition, but your way of reprogramming yourself. Each day you remain consistent, you carve deeper into your neural map the truth that you are someone who can be relied upon. And from there, you are not merely pursuing goals, you are becoming someone capable of accomplishing anything. Consistency is not a personality trait, it is a decision repeated so many times that it no longer requires deciding. And it is at that point success becomes inevitable, not because you are lucky, not because you are special, but because you do not stop. No matter what happens, you keep moving forward, and there is no force in this world stronger than a human being who has decided never to stop. There is a sweet illusion that many people carry throughout their lives, that once they find enough motivation, everything will become easy. That if they could just touch the right spark of inspiration, at the right time, in the right place, with the right song or the right words, all procrastination would dissolve. But then they realize, motivation is not there when they need it most. It is absent on cold mornings. It is silent when the body is weary, when schedules are packed, when the mind wavers, and that is when the truth becomes clear. Motivation is not enough. It never island. Motivation is emotion, and like all emotions, it shifts constantly, unstable, unpredictable. Today you may feel full of energy. Tomorrow you may just want to hide from the world. No one can fully control the rhythm of their emotions, and if life is governed by something uncontrollable, you will never maintain a steady course. That is why those who only act when they feel inspired will forever be trapped in the cycle of starting and quitting, not because they are not capable, but because they chose the wrong foundation. Motivation is a flame that flares up, but quickly dies out. You can strike a match and see it blaze brightly for a few seconds, but without lasting fuel, that light cannot endure. What allows people to sustain action over the long term is not fleeting inspiration, but an inner structure built from habit, discipline, and identity. That is the foundation where motivation may visit, but is never allowed to rule. Many people mistake motivation as the prerequisite to begin, but the truth is, action creates motivation, not the other way around. A small step forward, the first line written, the first reluctant walk into the gym, all of these awaken the inspiration that has been asleep. Motivation is not the condition for starting, it is the reward for those who dare to start first. The most dangerous thing about relying on motivation is that it nurtures a hidden habit, to act only when it feels easy, when it feels fun, when it feels right. And when things are not perfect, when real life with all its chaos and unpredictability arrives, you stop, you delay, you make excuses. And each time you do, you teach yourself that your commitment is weaker than your emotions. Your self-belief is drained little by little without you even noticing. Meanwhile, those who produce real results are not the ones who are always overflowing with energy, but the ones who act without asking their emotions for permission. They do not wonder if today they feel inspired. They do not weigh whether it is sunny or raining, convenient or not. They simplify everything into one clear choice, to do or not to do, and they choose to do, again and again. They do not need blazing fire, only steady steps. This does not mean motivation is the enemy. It can be a wonderful companion, but only when you are not dependent on it. Let it be a supportive wind, not your only sail. With it, you move faster. Without it, you can still row forward using the willpower and systems you have designed beforehand. A ship cannot wait forever for the wind to blow before it moves. It must have its own mechanism to operate. And life is the same. Motivation, if misunderstood, breeds another dangerous illusion. You think successful people are always filled with inspiration. The truth is the exact opposite. They too are tired, bored, and face empty days like anyone else. But they have one simple habit. They do not trust fleeting emotions. They trust structure. They trust action. They trust the future version of themselves they are building day by day, hour by hour, step by step. Some begin with blazing fire, but quickly cool down. Others start slowly, quietly, without standing out, but they do not quit. And it is those uncelebrated steps that make the difference. Because success does not require you to explode, it requires you not to quit halfway. If you have been waiting for the day of inspiration, stop. Not because that day does not exist, but because it is not enough to carry you through all the others. Build for yourself a system that works even when you feel like doing nothing at all. A system that needs no hesitation. A system you simply step into and act like brushing your teeth every morning, like locking the door every time you leave the house. No need to ask, shall I do it today? Only the certainty, today it will be done. Success does not come from sporadic bursts of effort, but from the countless times you quietly refuse to give up, the times you show up unseen, the times you do what must be done, not because you feel inspired, but because you decided long ago. You do not wait for feeling to lead action. You act to reshape feeling. And from there, you cease to be someone who chases motivation and become someone who generates the momentum of success. Look back at the past year. How many things did you begin with great enthusiasm but leave unfinished? And how many times did you only need to push a little further, yet stopped because it no longer felt like the right moment? It is at those silent turning points that destiny is decided. Not on the stage, not in applause, but in the quiet room where you choose to work, to continue, to refuse surrender to passing emotion. Therefore, if you want real results, stop waiting for motivation. Stop whenever you hear the voice in your head whispering, "Not yet." Replace it with a steady nod of resolve. Do it. Begin. Move forward. Motivation is an honored guest, but not the master of the house. And you are the one who decides whether that house is built on solid ground. The secret does not lie in feeling inspired at all times, but in refusing to let feelings dictate action. When you understand this, you step into a new field of energy where everything no longer depends on external conditions, but begins to rise from within. That is the foundation upon which true success is built, steady, silent, and unshakable. Every day, you face hundreds of choices: to do or not to do, to delay or to begin, to rest or to push a little further. And within that stream of choices, there is one thing that, if not clearly established, will always pull you back to the starting point. You are still negotiating with yourself. You are still debating whether you should do it today. You are still waiting to see how your mood turns out. You are still letting emotions decide your behavior. And that is why you are not consistent. Because what you need is not another choice, but a principle that is non-negotiable. The strongest habit is the one that requires no reconsideration, no convincing yourself, no inspiration, no emotional support. It unfolds as a natural part of you, not glamorous, not dramatic, no ritual required, just action on time, in the right way, in line with your commitment. It is no longer a task to complete, but the identity you live. When action becomes a non-negotiable habit, you no longer need immense discipline. Everything becomes automatic. That is when you step into the operating mode of those who create lasting results. The average person begins the day by asking, "Should I do this today?" The excellent person begins the day by doing. No hesitation, no re-evaluation, no circling around for reasons. They already decided beforehand. And that decision is no longer put back on the table every morning for renegotiation. They understand that each time you open the door to negotiation, you grant yourself the opportunity to escape. And just one crack is all procrastination needs to slip in. If you want action to become habit, the first thing to change is how you name it. Not what I need to do today, but what I always do. The more words like need, should, want, or hope appear in your thoughts, the clearer it is that you have not yet made that action part of your identity. But when you say, "I am someone who writes every morning," "I am someone who trains every afternoon," "I am someone who always keeps promises to myself," then the action no longer depends on circumstances. It becomes a part of who you are. No one asks whether they should brush their teeth today. No one asks whether they should put on clothes before going out. These small, repeated actions have become unquestionable habits. And if such small things can become unshakable, then greater actions can too if you treat them with the same seriousness. You do not need inspiration to brush your teeth. So why would you need inspiration to carry out what could change your life? Start with small things. You do not need to turn your life into an enormous checklist and burn out halfway. Just choose one key action, one thing you know that, if done consistently, will change your life. Anchor it to a fixed time. Attach it to a specific rhythm in your day. Do not let it drift in the vague space of when I have time. Then repeat. Rain or shine, joy or sorrow, ease or obstacle. Each time you repeat without reconsideration, you push that action deeper into the unconscious. And that is where habit lives. Some will say, I am not a disciplined person. But no one is born disciplined. Discipline is formed by the repetition of consistent choices. You do not need to start with iron will. Just begin with a small decision and continue until it no longer feels like a decision. That is the moment you move from effort to natural, from needing to try to being unable not to. A non-negotiable habit is also the antidote to mental fatigue. When you have to decide too many things each day, the brain slips into decision exhaustion. But when an action has been set as a fixed part of life, you no longer waste energy debating it. You do not ask whether you should do it, you simply do it. And this frees up mental resources to focus on more important creativity. Another crucial part of building non-negotiable habits is clarity. No vagueness, no generalities. Not, I will exercise more, but I exercise 20 minutes every morning at 7. Not, I will write more often, but I write every evening before bed. Clarity helps the brain remember. Specificity helps action repeat. And once repeated enough times, you no longer need to think. You simply act. Pay attention to those who achieve long-term results. They do not live on daily willpower. They are not fighting procrastination constantly. They just do, as a natural part of themselves. Because for them, those actions are no longer a choice each day. They are the standard of living, a part of their operating system. And this can happen for anyone, even you. You do not need to change everything at once. Just choose one thing. One habit you know, if kept long enough, will change the quality of your life. Tie it to your daily schedule. Protect it like a sacred ritual. Do not put it back on the negotiation table. Do not reconsider it every day. And after a time, you will see that action has become part of you, like breath, like heartbeat, like a silent truth carrying you farther than any short-lived burst of motivation ever could. Not every great action begins with inspiration. In fact, the actions that change your life often start from a state that feels completely wrong when you are bored, unmotivated, sluggish, or simply do not want to do anything at all. Yet in that very moment, when all the reasons to delay line up in your head, if you still act, what you have just done is not merely starting a task. You have re-established your position with yourself. You have declared to your inner being, I am the one in control, not fleeting emotions. The mindset of starting even when you don't want to is one of the key powers that separates those who always finish from those who always procrastinate, because you will not always want to. There will be many days when nothing drives you forward. There will be times when your mind feels empty, your body heavy, and every reason to delay sounds convincing. But if you only act when everything feels ideal, you will be waiting for a world that does not exist. And if you keep waiting, you will lose the most important thing, yourself. The difference between a successful person and one who leaves everything unfinished does not lie in who has more talent, but in who understands the mechanics of the mind. The mind always seeks to avoid discomfort. It is a survival mechanism. It will whisper, not now. You're not ready yet. Today won't be effective. You can do it later. And if you believe it, you fall into the gentlest yet cruelest trap, reasonable procrastination. The mindset of starting even when you don't want to is not about forcing yourself, but about clearly understanding that feelings are not the compass for action. Feelings are just waves passing through. Action is the choice. And each time you choose to act when your feelings do not support you, you are opening a new window in your mental structure, a window that leads to mastery. Many people say, I'll wait until I feel ready. But readiness does not precede action. It is the result of action. One page written in fatigue is worth more than 100 imagined pages full of inspiration but never started. 5 minutes of reluctant training is stronger than an hour spent thinking about working out but doing nothing. Acting even when you don't want to is the starting point of real change. There is a simple but effective technique, the 5-second rule. When your mind starts giving reasons to delay, do not think further. Count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and begin. Do not leave time for negotiation. Do not let your brain pull you back to the comfort zone. Act first, think later. Because the more you think when motivation is lacking, the deeper you dig into the maze of excuses, and that kills momentum. You do not need to do everything. You just need to start. Just the first step. Open the laptop. Tie your shoelaces. Sit at the desk. Set the timer. A single act, so small it seems meaningless, yet it creates transformation. It says that you are choosing yourself. And often, you will find yourself continuing, not because inspiration suddenly arrived, but because that very opening action awakened the flow. When starting, even when you don't want to, becomes a habit, you no longer fear uninspired days. You are no longer at the mercy of mental fluctuations. You are no longer manipulated by fatigue, discouragement, or the sense of being not ready, because you know that once you start, the rest will unfold. The difficulty is never in finishing. The difficulty is always in starting, and if you break through that knot, you will see how much easier everything becomes than you imagined. This mindset is also the antidote to those long stretches of being stuck in the state of knowing what to do but unable to do it. Because you will realize there is no ideal day, and there doesn't need to be. You do not need to be overflowing with inspiration to start. You just need to start. This repetition retrains your entire nervous system, teaching your brain that action is the priority, not emotion. What is remarkable is that over time, the feeling of not wanting to do anything loses its power, because you no longer feed it, you no longer believe it, you no longer obey it. And each time this happens, the power returns to you. You are the one who acts, not the one who is led. You are the one who creates the flow, not the one swept along by it. The world does not need you to always be ready. It needs you to start. The unfinished projects do not need more inspiration. They need you to open the computer, press the keys, or step out the door. You do not need a miracle. You just need the first small action right in the moment you don't want to. That is the real power. Not perfection, not extraordinary talent, but the ability to step forward even when everything inside you only wants to stay still. And from that place, you will go farther than all those who are still waiting for a perfect day of inspiration to begin. They are still waiting, but you have already set out. Procrastination is not a problem of willpower. It is a problem of strategy. No one is born with the instinct to delay. But over time, the brain learns to retreat whenever it feels uneasy, overwhelmed, uncertain, or simply imperfect. Procrastination is the mind's way of protecting itself. But this self-protection, if not recognized and transformed, gradually becomes a closed loop. You avoid, feel guilty, then avoid even more. And the frightening part is not how long you delay, but that you begin to believe you are someone who cannot keep commitments. To break that loop requires more than motivation or discipline. It requires a deliberate strategy, clear, specific, repeatable. Because you cannot defeat an unconscious mechanism with vague responses. You must look at it directly, understand how it operates, and change it at the root. The starting point is recognition. Procrastination does not appear as a blatant action, but as a quiet whisper. It's not urgent yet. It's fine. Tomorrow will do. I need more time to prepare properly. These words do not smell of failure. On the contrary, they are disguised with very reasonable logic. But it is that very reasonableness that blinds you to the fact that you are procrastinating. And the first step is to stop and call it by its true name. I am procrastinating. After naming it, dig deeper. Why? Sometimes you procrastinate not because you are lazy, but because you are afraid. Afraid the outcome won't meet expectations. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of having to sustain once you begin. Or simply because the task feels too big, too vague. And when the mind cannot see a clear starting point, it will always choose retreat. The first strategy is to break it down. When something feels too big, the brain reacts with paralysis. But if you break it down small enough that it cannot be refused, resistance weakens. Do not try to write a whole chapter today. Just begin with a short introduction. Do not say, exercise every day. Just put on workout clothes and play music. A vague task will always be postponed, but a clear, specific, simple action, so small it seems almost meaningless, can open the door to bigger action. Next is the 5-minute rule. Promise yourself you will only do something for 5 minutes. No commitment to finish everything. Just begin. And if after 5 minutes you still don't want to continue, you may stop. The interesting thing is that most of the time you won't stop, because the greatest obstacle lies at the beginning. Once you cross that barrier, momentum naturally flows. Another powerful strategy is designing your environment. Procrastination does not arise from nothing. It comes from the constant pull of things that are easier, more enticing, and instantly satisfying. A misplaced phone can ruin a work session. An open social media tab can burn away an hour of focus. You cannot rely on willpower alone to resist temptation. You must clear the minefield before stepping onto the battlefield. Turn off notifications. Put your phone out of sight. Clean your workspace. Anything that makes the action